Today we are doing a window card. I have done this type of card before in the past, and recently during a crafting session with some fellow demonstrators, one of our members, she put together a window card and showed us how to make it. Her card was done in the portrait mode this way. And so today I thought I would challenge myself and turn it and do a landscape version. Now, Father's Day is coming up, and so I thought I would pull out this beautiful Whiskey Business stamp set. This is carrying over from last year's annual catalog, and it's a great one for masculine birthday cards. Everybody seems to be drinking whiskey or bourbon or something like that. I particularly don't care for that liquor, but a lot of people seem to really enjoy it and experiment with different makes. And they apparently can be quite expensive. So anyway, I just thought I would do it. I really love the decanter and the glass. I actually have some beautiful crystal decanters that I have in a china cabinet. I often think about maybe putting sherry inside because I do love a good glass of sherry. I'm kind of like my nanny that way. She loved to have a glass of sherry once the sun was over the yard arm, as the expression goes. Anyway, that's a bit of background there. So again, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Erica, and I am from Me to You Paper Crafts. So let's get started with this. So I've already pre-cut all of the materials that I need. And so if you look below the video in the description, there will be a link to the blog post, and it'll give you everything that you need to make this card. So this is what it looks like on the front. There is a window sheet right on the front that peeks into the inside of the card. You see? And it is finished off very nicely on the inside with 2 strips of cardstock as well, so that you don't see the tape underneath it. So I'll show you how to accomplish that. And there you have it. So you basically build something on the front with a peek through into the inside of the card. That is a very sweet card. So while we're talking about that, I will pull out the other card that we made. This is the portrait style card, and I used a new suite from our new annual catalog. It's a beautiful treed theme. So this is what this one looks like. So it's portrait style. And then there is a little bit of a window in here. So on the outside, I built this tree with the bird. And then on the inside, you can see, you can peek to the tree on the inside of the card. Okay, so that's the portrait style. All right, so let's pull in what I have, and I'll tell you how to make this. So for this card, I have a card base. I've chosen to use the early espresso. So what you want to do with this is you're going to cut half a sheet of cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, and you're going to score it in half at 4 1/4. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start cutting this. So you're going to put this inside your trimmer, and let me just fold this so that I can see where my center line is here. Okay, so I'm going to open it up now, and I'm going to line this up at 5 1/4. So you're going to line the left-hand side up at 5 1/4 so that your score line is sitting at 1 inch right here. Because what you want to do is you want to cut off this piece of card to the right of your cut line here. All right, so this is what you're doing. You're cutting the card off so that you're left with just this flap at the top. Okay, so again, line up the score line at 1 inch, which ends up being at 5 1/4 on the left-hand side. So 5 1/4. And then I'm simply going to cut that off. Okay, so what I have now is my top flap. All right, and we're going to put some designer series paper on that. Okay, now we're going to build the front of the card. So what you want to do is you're going to take this leftover piece and you're going to cut 1 inch strips. So we need a 1 inch strip for the bottom of the card, and we're going to then put on some DSP. And then you need a 1 inch strip on the inside at the top and a 1-inch strip on the inside on the bottom. That's just to hold the tape, and you'll see what I mean later. So basically from this piece, you're cutting 3 strips of 1 inch. Okay, so there's one. There's 2. And then I'm going to do one more at 1 inch. And there's the 3rd one. Okay, so you're just left over with this tiny strip that you might as well just throw out. Okay, so there's your 3 other strips of cardstock. Okay, and that's all the cutting that you need. Now, I've already pre-cut 2 pieces of designer series paper, and the paper that I'm using is this beautiful paper. It is called In Good Taste, and this paper was available last year, and it's being carried forward into the new annual catalog, so you can still get this. So this paper is fabulous for, particularly for masculine cards, and it's papers that make up different textiles. So there's bricks, there are tiles, there's carpeting, there's like that wallpaper paste as well. So it's kind of a fun set. It's just all textured. All right, so that's a really good paper pack to have lying around for when you want some simple designs. Now I already, just to save time, I stamped the beautiful decanter ahead of time and cut it out. Okay, there are no dies that go with this stamp set, so I just hand cut it out, and it was easy to do. And then I've actually made myself a little glass here, which I'm going to use as a mask. I want to show you how you can mask. So you see on this card, I put 2 glasses side by side. Well, this time I want to put one overlapping another, and I'm going to show you that, how to do that. That's called masking. Okay, so this is my masked piece. Okay, so you're going to bring back your card base here, and I'm just going to burnish this fold just so it lies as flat as I can get it. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take my piece of window sheet. Now we have these fabulous window sheets that you can purchase from the annual catalog, and you're going to cut this to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's exactly the same size as the card. And you're going to be gluing it to the inside of the card, inside to that flap there. Now what will happen is that when you put this in and fold the flap down, the window sheet is going to be just below that score line, the mountain part of the score line. So what happens then is it gets to be a little bit over on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to glue it in, and then I'm just going to trim that little bit off on the bottom, okay, to make it even with the back. Now I feel that you can use, you can either use your tear and tape, which is what I'm going to use today. And you're going to put 2 strips of tear and tape on that flap there, or you could use our Stamp and Seal Plus if you're comfortable using that. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 layers of tear and tape in here. Okay, and I like just to pull down a ruler. I'm going to move my window sheet here. I'm going to pull a ruler so that I can cut here. Sometimes it doesn't rip very well with my fingernails. I'm going to do another strip in here, so closer to the score line there. Okay. Plus, using your ruler lets you get the tape as close to the edge as possible. Okay, so when you're using tear and tape, make sure that you press it down to get the glue really stuck to the cardstock. And then I like to use my take a pick tool. I like to use the pokey part. Okay, and then what I do is I just drag it under, and then the backing lifts off really easily rather than picking at the very ends. Okay. All right, so now you're going to bring back your window sheet, and you're going to pop that in there and try and get your sides as even as you possibly can and butt it up. If you hold this flap upwards like that and just push your acetate or your window sheet in to that score line, and then you're going to glue that down. Give it a good press. Okay, so now you're going to see that I have a little, I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Let's see, what can I show? Don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of an overlap on there. Okay, so I'm just going to pull in, I have my little mini chop. I'm going to pull in my little mini chopper here, and I'm going to line up that edge and just give that a bit of a chop. Okay, and take that piece off. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to do now is I'm going to put a piece of designer series paper along this top piece. So I'm going to pull in my silicone mat, and I'm going to pull in my tape runner. This is a brand new tape refill in here. Okay, so I'm going to line this up and put this on the top, like so. Okay, now I'm going to take one of these 3 strips. So what I want to do is I want to put this onto the window sheet at the bottom of this piece. Okay, so again, I'm going to take some tear and tape, and this time I'm going to put it directly onto this piece. And we'll put another piece closer to the bottom, like that. Okay, give them a good burnish. Get out my, I still call it a pokey tool. There's my pokey tool. Okay. Now you're going to be careful when you line this up, because if it touches, you're going to be sticking it down and it's very difficult to get it up. So try and hover and get that first bit going, and then match up the other side. There you go. So now I've put the bottom piece on, and I'm going to follow that with the second piece of designer series paper. Okay, so there is our window sheet. Now I see I've got a few marks on here, but I should be able to polish those off with a smooth lint-free cloth, preferably like a tea towel would be good. Okay, so I'm not too worried about that right now. Okay, so now to finish off the insides, let me show you what happens. So when you use the tear and tape, on the inside of the card, you can see the tape, okay? So it's not very aesthetically pleasing, and that's why you have these 2 pieces that you're now going to glue on top of those to cover the tape up, okay? Now, I'm hoping I can just use my regular tape. On here. So again, I'm going to just butt that up against the score line there and put that on like that. And then I'm going to put another piece at the bottom. And that should finish it off quite nicely on the inside of your card. There we go. Okay, so there is our card, and I'm just going to take my bone folder and give this another press. Okay, there's our card. All right, now it's time to do your decorating. So this one, I wanted this to look a bit like, I guess, a whiskey. I don't know these liquors, and I don't pretend to know them, but I know there's light golden colors, and then there's these darker colors. Maybe this is a bourbon, I'm not sure. So I used my alcohol blends to color these in and got some fabulous shading, but unfortunately we don't have a really dark brown. So I actually used our watercolor pencils. This is Early Espresso. And I colored this in, and then to give it a really good smooth look, I used our blender pens. So you get a set of 3 of these blender pens, and it's just a clear liquid inside. And when you use your watercolor pencils, it smooths it all out so that you don't really see the little pencil marks. Okay, so that's what I did for that. So I'm going to do pretty well the same layout, I think, except I'm going to do something different with the glasses. But this is going to go on the front. And I'm just going to glue, just put a little bit of tape on the bottom of this decanter. And I'm just going to stick it on there. And I'm going to let it free flow on the card, because I don't want to put, as tempting as it is to put a dimensional, when you open it up, you're going to see that dimensional in there. Okay. So I'm not going to do any, I'm just going to let it free flow like that. Just stick it, you know, at the bottom. Okay. All right. Now, what we do need, and I don't think I actually cut a piece, is on the inside, you need a piece of, now I'm using Very Vanilla for this, just because I think it goes better with the browns. So you need a Very Vanilla piece that's 4 by 5 1/4. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go and cut that piece, because I don't think I have a piece here. Let me just double check. No, I don't. So I'm going to go cut a piece and I'll be right back. So here is the inside of my card. Now, what I don't want to do is to stick this down into the card and then stamp, because if I make a mistake, that will be a disaster. So I want to stamp it and then we'll stick it in here. Okay. But you have to kind of figure out where you're going to be stamping. So you want to center this in here, and then close the window and figure out approximately where you want to, you know, do your design. Now, I thought I would try using this table. There's a stamp in here that kind of is a piece of wood. It's kind of like as if it's, I don't know, like the tabletop or a shelf maybe. But for this purpose, it could be just a tabletop. I want to sit those glasses on something. Let me just get a block that's big enough. So I might want to stamp this and then put the glasses on the top of that. I'm going to cut both the glasses out. So what I'm going to do is I need to figure out where I'm going to put the shelf. So if I take my paper here and stick it out the side of the card and then close, let me just show you what I mean. So you're going to position it top to bottom where it needs to go. Let's get rid of this, where it needs to go. Okay. And then close your card. I'm just going to draw a pencil mark just where I know the bottom, this bottom piece is. So I'm just going to put a little pencil mark right there. Okay. So now I know I'm going to stamp above that line. So let's set that aside. And I'm just going to line this up on my grid sheet so I can ensure that I stamp straight. So let's get out my Early Espresso for my tabletop. Now, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here, this design. I have something in my head. Now that's too much ink. I pressed down too hard. I don't want any little halos. around my stamp. So let's just clean that and start again. So don't press down on your ink pads. Okay, that looks better. So I'm just going to stamp this above that line like that. Okay, now I may want to fill that in a little bit. So I'm going to take my I got a bit of ink on my finger. Let me just get rid of that. So I'm going to take my watercolor pencil and I'm going to color this in. And you may not see this on the camera, but I'm going to use the blender pen and see if you can see how that works. But often when you use watercolor pencils, you actually see the pencil lines. And the color, depending on the pressure you use, the coloring is not even, which actually for a piece of wood is an okay thing. Okay, but I'm just going to color that in. So then when you take the blender pen and you apply this, it's just a clear liquid. You may not see this on camera, but I can see that the lines are all blending beautifully together. Okay. And then to clean this, you're just going to take a scrap piece of paper and you just have to go like this and just until there's no color. Just keep swiping it till there's no color. So as I said, you get a pack of 3 of these pens, and what's great about them is that there's 2 ends. Same size nib, but they're clear, so you can be coloring up to 6 colors before you have to clean them. Okay, all right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp one of the glasses actually I'm going to restate what I was just telling you. I actually don't need to do masking, and I'll tell you why. Because I have the shelf now, I'm going to cut 2 of these glasses and then I can overlap them like this. But if you were to stamp this on there and then stamp another one over it, well, you'd kind of see through it, which, you know, again, because it's glass, I guess that would be okay, but I should have played around with this a little bit more, but hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying here. So let me grab a scrap piece of Very Vanilla here, and I'm going to get out my black ink, and I'm going to just stamp another one. So the masking idea is kind of mute in this case. Okay, so I'm just going to take my watercolor pencil here, and I'm going to pencil in the liquid. In here. The other thing I like a lot about the blender pens is that you don't have to worry about how you color. I'm just doing some dark bits just to show some dimension in here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my blender pen and I'm going to blend. It'd be nice if we had a dark brown alcohol marker, but we don't. So let's just color this one in. Just put some darker bits in here like I did the other one, just to show a bit of dimension. Okay. So there are, now this one I think needs to be a bit darker. Just add a bit more dark in there. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out. Luckily, this stamp set is very easy to cut out, so I think that's a good reason why they didn't do a die set to match. There we go. See, that was pretty simple. So there are our two glasses. Okay, so now we can bring the main part of our card back, and we can go ahead and glue this to the inside of the card. Okay, so I'm going to bring my silicone sheet back and my tape. This tape is very, very strong, this Stamp and Seal, so I don't put a lot of tape on. I just usually do the top and the bottom. And again, as long as you burnish, rub it in to the cardstock, it should be good. Okay, so rub it in really well and then it sticks well. And then I'm just going to grab my eraser and get rid of that little pencil mark that I had in there. Okay, and now I'm going to close the front and determine where I want to put these glasses. So I'm going to put one, say here, like that, and then one overlapping and further to the front, like that. See that? Isn't that cool? I also notice I've got a hair in there. Oh great, it's stuck in the glue. That's not very pleasant. There we go. All right, so there is our glasses. So now I'm going to put a little bit of tape on this glass. We'll stick with this one further back on the shelf or on the table, and we'll put this one overlapping and further to the front, like so. So there you have a dimensional little tabletop. Now this could have been a little bit lower. I can see that now. I should have made that shelf a little bit lower, but that's okay. Or I could have put the shelf all the way along here. I could stamp more of the shelf down below. Let's give that a try. So I'm only going to ink up. Let's clean this. And rather than stamp it, I'm going to use my Early Espresso marker, and I will just drag over this like halfway. Okay, and see if I can line this up. I'm going to pull this closer to me so that I can get my head over it. Let's see if I can stamp more of the table. Oh, perfect. If I do say so myself. So I'm going to use the watercolor pencil again, and let's just color this in. Okay, and then we'll bring in the blender pen one more time and just blend that in. There you go. So let's see what it looks like when I close it now. Oh, that's better. Isn't that a sweet card? Now on this one, I did put a greeting, straight up, you're the best. And on this one, what other greetings are on here? There's an actual Father's Day, Being a Dad is Whiskey Business. That's kind of cute. And there is also Your Top Shelf. So if this was a really expensive glass of bourbon, I could put this on here. So I might do that. So I'm just going to grab a strip of cardstock here, and let's put this on a block. Okay, and maybe let's do this in let's do this in black this time. I think the other one I did in early espresso. Okay. Now, your Memento Black, it does dry fairly quickly, but I always give it a few seconds to dry. And I'm going to grab down one of our punches, banner punches, just to give it a bit of a decorative edge for something a bit different. So this is called our Lovely You. Well, actually, it was paired with the Lovely You stamp set, but it's called Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch. So you have 2 different punch ends that you can use and 3 different sizes. You can start with a 1/2 inch strip of paper, 3/4 inch, or a 1 inch strip, and you position the strips on these tracks here. So I'm going to put this in, and let's go for... And it's helpful to look at the back. Try and view it from the back so that you can see where the paper is. And then you might want to just adjust it a bit to get it centered. Okay. Like that. And then punch it. And then I'm going to just chop that a little bit and do it again. I think it's a bit too long. So let's chop that off and do it again. I'm going to turn it upside down so I don't smudge the ink. And let's put it in there and try and get it centered. So I just use my scissors and I just, there we go. Push it over. And then let's chop a little bit off this end and do the same thing. Stick that in there. And then just get it centered. And chop. Okay, so this is what you end up with. Your top shelf. Okay, so now I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop this up. I'll put 3 on here just to hold that middle piece up. Now you could do this. So on this one, I did it at the bottom. Maybe I'll do this one at the top. Your top shelf. There we go. So there are our 2 landscape window cards. I hope you enjoyed today's video and you will give it a try. All of the supplies will be listed on the blog post with a link to my online store. And I'll see you next week again. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.